So let's set the stage a little bit for us. 1960. We're going to go back in time. After JFK, our politics would forever play out on television. After Obama, 2008, our politics would forever play out on social media. And in 2012, the big game-changing political technology was, without question, big political data. And it was data about you. Our politicians today know everything about us. They know our names, our genders, where we shop, who our friends are, our home addresses, our email addresses, even our IP addresses. And they use this information to put the right message in front of us at the right time through the right medium. And it works. Now, those who are familiar with digital advertising know that this isn't anything new. And as marketing campaigns sell goods, political campaigns sell candidates. So what's wrong here? Other than a slight creepiness factor, right? I know I get followed all around the internet by politicians, but the issue really is, if our politicians know everything about us, what do we really know about them? So forget reams and reams of data about what politicians are doing or saying or voting on in Congress, or in City Council for that matter. How many people can actually name them all? How many people here can name their representative in Congress? How about your state senator? State representative? We have a very politically engaged community here. This is amazing. It's never actually happened before. Usually people have no idea what's going on. So that's fantastic. That's great that we have so many people that know here. And if you believe, right, that political knowledge and knowing who those elected representatives are is a pillar in a well-functioning democracy, and if you believe that having information about our elected officials and having a conversation and a debate about our public policy issues is really essential to our electoral policy process, then this big data divide that we have starts to look like a big electoral problem and a big civic problem, right? So I just want to jump into it a little bit with a little introduction there. I'm Dave, this is Mike. We are 1/3 of ElectNext. We're a civic engagement startup focused on getting anyone, anywhere politically informed and engaged. And we feel that the best way to do that is to take big political data and put it directly into your hands. And we do that in 3 different ways. First, we open, structure, and analyze as much political data as we can possibly get our hands on. So that's legislative information, roll call votes, campaign finance information, political text, political speech. Second, we overlay analytics on top of that so we can extract relevant insights and really meaningful insights. And third, and probably most importantly, we distribute it to you at the moment you need it, right when you're thinking and reading about the issues that are affecting our country and affecting our communities.
All right, so Dave gave you a sort of a quick overview of our process. I'm going to dive into a little more detail. So first, Dave mentioned data. So first is how do we get our hands on all this data? Government at every level has disclosure laws. The federal level, the state level, the local level. They have to release campaign finance information, the complete text of legislation, voting records, lobbyist activity, earmarks, and so forth. But for the most part, there is no requirement for that data to be made available in computer-friendly formats. So these organizations you see listed here in the middle do a lot of work to collect, process, clean, and organize all this information into computer-friendly formats. And then they distribute that data freely and openly. If you want, you can go download a complete data set of federal-level campaign contributions from 1989 to the present. There are also APIs you can query on the web to get more specific information. For example, if you want to know who the top 5 donors are to your local representative in Congress and how much they gave, you can get that information instantly online. There are easy-to-use web forms, or if you want to do some programming, you can incorporate those APIs into your own software. So once we have all this data, we analyze it. For example, we're currently using a statistical technique called topic modeling to analyze the text of all the bills introduced in Congress last year. And we do that to determine the primary topics of legislation without having to hire an army of interns to read through it all. And so we're going to do this for state legislators as well. And from that analysis, we can generate informative and easy to understand visuals. And this is an example of how we visualize the results from the topic modeling analysis. Here you can see Senator Chuck Schumer is much more active on budget and taxation legislation than most senators. And soon we'll be developing similar visual displays about their voting patterns as well, so you can see how liberal or conservative they are on different issues. And we use all this information to develop profiles for over 10,000 politicians in the United States. And our profiles are easy to find. We work with online news publishers to embed our profiles directly in your news. So this is our latest product that we share with publishers online. We call it Digital Politician Baseball Cards, showing you photos and stats for every U.S. politician. And these profiles live at the bottom of every political article across our partner sites. Every politician mentioned in the text of an article will have his or her ElectNext profile available right there at the bottom of the article, letting you dig deeper into their backgrounds without having to leave the article that you're reading. And these baseball cards don't take up a lot of space on the page, but we give you tabs you can click on that allow you to dig deeper so you can learn more about their biography, campaign contributions, legislative activity, and so forth. And we'll be adding more features soon for executive offices as well, such as for governors and mayors. And for publishers, we make it easy to embed our profiles in your site. If you're a publisher or a political blogger and using WordPress, you can download our political profiler from the WordPress plugin repository. And if you're not using WordPress, we still have you covered. We have another solution that works on any publishing platform. So that's our process, from data to analysis to delivery. So what I'd like to do now is say a little more about why what we're doing is important. There are major changes happening right now in how news is reported and how people get their news. Traditional journalism is struggling, and you see this online. There's a lot more blogging and commentary and not as much in-depth investigative news stories. We're also seeing the rise of open government initiatives, big data analytics, news focused on civic education engagement, like Plan Philly, that we'll be hearing from in a few minutes. So let's take a closer look at some of these trends. In 2010, which is right there, more people got their news online than from radio and newspapers. And Americans are actually spending more time following the news than they were 10 years ago. So where people go for the news is changing, but the audience is not shrinking. The green line at the top, if you can't read it, is television. Yellow and red are newspapers and radio, and the blue is online news consumption. But at the same time, the number of journalists is actually going down. According to this year's Pew report on the state of the media, newsroom staff has seen a 30% decline since the year 2000. And in total numbers is at its lowest level since 1978. So if the number of people reading the news isn't going down, why can't news organizations maintain their staffing of journalists? Because they're losing $13 of print advertising for every $1 of digital advertising that they gain online. Newspapers used to dominate the advertising markets in their cities, and that revenue subsidized their journalistic work. And they've now lost that business in the online world to Google, to Facebook, and others who now control the vast majority of the online advertising market. So that Pew study I mentioned said in conclusion that news organizations are less equipped to question what is coming to them or to uncover the stories themselves, and interest groups are better equipped and have more technological tools than ever. So what does this mean exactly? It means news organizations are struggling with providing in-depth stories and investigative journalism. And at the same time, interest groups and political campaigns, like Obama in 2008 and 2012, are taking advantage of opportunities provided by the web and social media to bypass traditional journalists and take their messages directly to people. This means fewer opportunities for journalists to investigate and verify the accuracy of those messages, and it means there are fewer opportunities to place those messages in a larger context and present competing viewpoints. So there's no magic wand solution to all these problems, but ElectNext and other organizations are finding new ways to support government transparency and accountability. There are success stories in the world of nonprofit investigative news, like The Lens in New Orleans and California Watch. The Lens won a Pulitzer Prize last year, and California Watch has been nominated for one this year. There's also growth in organizations that focus on civic engagement around specific issues, like Plan Philly. Their mission is to engage and educate citizens on the value of a well-designed city. And there are organizations like Inside Science and the Food and Environment Reporting Network. They distribute their original reporting through the website's traditional well-known media outlets, where readers are already getting their news. And ElectNext is taking that same approach. We distribute our politician profiles through our media partners, and our current and past partners include NBC Politics, the PBS NewsHour, Washington Post, Hearst, and The Economist. For developing our profiles on local level politicians, we're focusing on Pennsylvania first. And you can find our profiles of Mayor Nutter, Philadelphia City Council members, and other local politicians on Philly.com, the Inquirer, the Daily News, the Times Tribune, the Morning Call, and others.
That's right. We're focused at the local level because a lot of times that's where information and participation are the scarcest. Yet it's also where our elected officials are supposed to be the closest to us in a lot of ways, right? So opening up local data is something we're really passionate about. And we're lucky here in Philadelphia. We have a great partnership with the City of Philadelphia. We work directly with the Mayor's Chief Data Officer, Mark Head, also with Tim back there as well, to take data that's theoretically publicly available, but truly make it publicly accessible. And a lot of times, for the first time ever. So we're really happy to do that. Our partnership also with the city will, for the first time, yield an API so that other organizations can come along and have access to this data, review it, and analyze it as well. So our partnership with the city and other localities and the other kind of national leaders in the open data movement like Sunlight and others that Mike mentioned earlier have allowed us to create the first ever national to neighborhood political platform. And that's how we're pioneering data-driven civic engagement and putting big political data right in your hands and to work for you. So that's a little bit about ElectNext. At this point, anyone have any questions? We'll take a few, then we'll switch over and let Plan Philly hop up here, and then we can just have a chat afterwards. So if anybody has anything, fire away.
So are these digital cards searchable? Can people go in and say, these are, I'm looking for someone who's interested in this, and pop up the politician local to you that's most...
So I absolutely love that question. And I'll answer it in kind of two parts. Yeah. No is the first answer, I suppose. You're not able to search it. We do have different tabs where you can view things like campaign finance information, biographical info, and then, again, the issue kind of profile as well. What you're talking about is similar to what we had in 2012, which was a candidate matcher, which you were able to say, these are the issues that are important to me. Here's how I rank them. Here's how I feel about, and then you were able to answer questions, right, and say, here's my positions on these different issues. And then we would recommend to you candidates at the House, Senate, or presidential level. At that point, we were only at the federal level. And for us, while it was, what's more exciting than picking a president, right? It's the most exciting thing in politics. But ultimately, we wanted to do more and really get down to the local level. And that's why we're really excited to be able to take that data and bring it to life for the first time. Yeah.
We actually do have an ability to like that on the publishing side. This is what the baseball cards look like. We did everything with slides because we didn't know if we had internet access. But we can actually maybe show you real quick. So here's Obama. You can see where some of this money is coming from. We can go down to the state level, or rather, this is U.S. Senator Mitch McConnell. You can see what committees he's on, where his money's coming from. And we even have Bill Green, who's on the city council. You can see where his money's coming from. And we got this. Yeah. Do you know some of these people? So that's the front end side. On the publishing side, this is WordPress, and this is a political article. There's a photo. There's some text. And so what the publishers can do on the publishing side is they can push this button which will scan the text of the article and find all the names of the politicians mentioned in it. And they can then, change the order if they want to. They can delete somebody if they want to. And then if there's someone they want to add, either our name scan missed it or, someone who they think is important to mention.
Does it work for candidates also, or is it people who are already elected?
Right now, it's just elected officials. We will be moving into candidates.
But I guess you could probably add somebody in, too.
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely,
that's
yeah.
Cool.
So to bring it down to the local level, I saw the partners that you have up there. In the very local level, Patch, New Haven Independent, pretty big, Patch obviously huge. Is it affordable for somebody who has a neighborhood website that makes income? And
Absolutely free from us.
okay.
So it's very affordable, yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, we left out an important point. It's free for public.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Here in Pennsylvania, we have a few thousand municipalities and townships. And I mean, how far are you going to drill down?
Yeah, that's a really great question. Right now, we have our eyes on the top 100 cities in the country. So ultimately, that's where we want to be, and then kind of move down from there as
Okay.
well. Yeah. We would love it someday, to get president to dog catcher, eventually. But right now, it's the first top U.S. cities, one of the top U.S. cities.
How about judges? I've never known which judge to vote for.
Yeah,
I would love to have that.
PA, right? I mean, how yeah, and I don't know how many of you have ever know about how people get on how it's you literally they pull chips out of a coffee can. Yeah,
Bingo balls.
Absurd, yeah. So yeah, and if you get like a bad ballot position, you basically drop out at that point because you're not going to be elected. So no, we're not able to do judge at this particular point. Personally, I think in PA they should probably find a different system for judges, but it's not uniform across the country. That's one of the main reasons why.
The local level is by far the biggest challenge in terms of collecting this data.
Yeah. We literally are in the bowels of City Hall some days. It's fantastic.
How do you differentiate between the different types of government that go on the local level, like a strong mayor versus a weak mayor, or a mayor that wasn't elected as a mayor, but he was elected by his peers as the mayor or something?
Yeah, so that's an awesome question. We found it happens at the state level as well, a little bit, right? I think Nebraska is unicameral legislature, right? So everyone's a senator if you're in Nebraska. So we're still trying to figure out exactly how to best kind of do that. But from right now, the cities that we're in, they all kind of have that strong mayor. They're not set up with city commissioners or a panel board of 3 or anything. It's usually just one strong mayor and then some sort of legislative body underneath them.
How do you, or have you ever been accused of being partisan, whether you're trying not to be or not, and how do you avoid making even the most innocuous factual piece of information about a politician, or do you have to kind of let it go at a certain point?
That's a huge challenge, and
It's an awesome question.
the emails we get are just amazing,
sure.
because we'll get one minute this, you guys are raving leftists, what's wrong with you? And then the next one is like, you guys are you're fascists, you're totally conservative. So people definitely bring their own lens to the information we're presenting.
Yeah.
And we just do our best to really just show the data. This is where the money's coming from. These are the amounts. This is the legislation they're introducing. This is their voting pattern. We're really trying not to do any of our own editorializing.
But there is language, right? So how careful do you find that you have to be about language?
Yeah,
that you use?
so we, that's a great question. We work to QC the data as best we can, right? So that's one kind of layer that we do. There's some language in there, and we work with politicians to populate that language. We found that readers, if they can, it's that old adage, everybody hates Congress, but everybody loves their member, right? If people can kind of dive down and learn more about the individual, that's usually beneficial for them, and they want to then dive down and learn more and kind of get more engaged, right? So we want to support that, absolutely. Politicians also love that. It's what they do. I don't know if you guys ever get those mailers around election day, your mailbox starts getting filled up with campaign commercials, right? The first one out of the gate is usually this positive biographical piece. So they're used to kind of pushing this personal narrative a little bit. And why shouldn't they be able to share why they're passionate about public service? Right? That's a good thing. We're very clear with them that they cannot campaign in no way, shape, or form. They have to adhere to the same laws that federal campaign finance regulations. So they can't say things like vote for, oppose, support, reject, submit for Congress, those type of things. And we police that. We're very, very serious about that. Politicians, I'll tell you, to be perfectly honest, this is kind of an interesting point, but a lot of them think this is fantastic, and a lot of them absolutely love it. I won't kind of try to take a partisan charge. Just really appreciate it for the engagement that it provides. Not all politicians are fans, as you would imagine. So not only every now and then we get accused of being right or left. Sometimes I just get screamed at by some elected official somewhere because they're very displeased that we're about to show their campaign finance information right at the basement article about them, and they don't like giving up that control. And my response to that point is, well, you ultimately have control. You can either cash that check or not. So don't tell me that you don't have control over where your campaign finance is coming from.
Done any sort of machine learning to see if you can figure out how people are going to vote based on certain things? To see what the contributing factors are. If people who donates, does it actually influence voting behavior?
No, not any sort of data labs or anything like that at this particular point. In 2012, when we did the candidate matcher, we certainly had some, the data we were collecting back was reminiscent of some polling information, right? So we began to parse that a little bit. You know, the things that we were looking at back then were more about, you know, these are the issues that people are saying that are most important to them, and here are the issues that here's the amount of time each candidate is spending talking about that issue in the debate, let's say, right? And that's what we were starting to see kind of interesting discrepancies. People really cared about education. No one ever talked about education in the presidential debates, right? They were talking about, you know, foreign affairs and other stuff like that. So those were the stuff that we usually tried to get into. Anything more on that?
Not too much. I mean, we're at the point of really trying to ramp up the analytics.
Yeah.
And at this point, just keep it focused on the factual pieces of information and things that are easy to just, you know, like I was showing with the topic modeling, we can extract what these bills are about and put them into categories. I don't know what kind of hot water we might get into if we started to try predicting people's votes. And we probably could do it, technically.
Yeah. Cool. Let's do one more, then we got Plan Philly up here.
This might be going or building upon whatever you guys already have, but I think that what you have is really good at showing your top donations, things like that. But right now, it seems like it's kind of set apart from the article. What I think would be really interesting is if the article is about some specific issue that's, you know, if it's gun laws, and I want to know, you know, is the NRA a top donator to, you know, if they're getting money from any sort of, you know, interest group. Have you looked at, I realize that on a global scale that's really difficult if you're talking, you know, all levels of government, but what have you made strides toward trying to contextualize, not just presenting the data, but the data that's actually relevant to this particular issue, not just this particular politician?
Love it. Yes, we're going there. Absolutely. Fantastic. Yeah. One of the big strides forward that we had to make was to basically figure out what the topic of an article is. So the topic modeler helps us out with that. Just like we're able to figure out the topic of a piece of legislation, we're able to identify the topic of an article. So then, you know, if it was about the environment, let's say, you know, we can turf at that point information specific to that. Interest group ratings, campaign finance donations, PAC donations, anything like that. So we're absolutely going in that direction, and we can't wait to be there.